Welcome again to the Death Row and Executions channel. I am Paco Rivera. I've got a thunderstorm going on outside, so if you hear any loud banging sounds, that's what that is. This month of May, the Alabama Supreme Court issued a death warrant for 54-year-old James Barber for an execution set to take place in the month of June, next month. However, at this time that I'm making this video, Alabama has not set an exact date in June. It seems like they're keeping that a secret for some reason. This case has some similarities with that of Charles Lorraine, a case that I profiled back in March, shortly before he was scheduled to be executed that month. Lorraine's execution has been rescheduled for the year 2026, about 3 years from now. Charles Lorraine and James Barber both worked as a handyman. They had gone to the home of the elderly person that they worked for, killed the person that hired them, then stole items and money from the house, and fled. In the year 2001, the victim in this case, 75-year-old Dorothy Epps, and her husband George owned a very large plot of farmland at their home that even included a private airstrip runway on a field for small planes to land and take off from. Must be nice. Dorothy Epps was a very petite person. She was 5 feet 5 inches tall and weighed only 100 pounds. And like I said, she was 75 years old. And while James Barber was not a very tall man, standing only 5 feet 6 inches tall, he was likely much heavier. His current prison record shows him at 180 pounds. Granted, this is 22 years after the crime. According to reports, it appears that James Barber was also dating Dorothy Epps' daughter, a woman named Liz Epps, or he told people that he was dating the daughter. I'm not sure what exactly was the relationship between him and Liz. What we do know is that he was doing odd jobs in and around the house on the property of Dorothy Epps and her husband George, who was away on a trip when she was killed. A family friend named Paul Desmond testified at trial that before George Epps left on his trip out of town, he had asked him to please go by the farm now and then to check on Mrs. Epps. Desmond said that he went by the farm with his girlfriend on Sunday, May 5th of the year 2001. At about 5 o'clock in the afternoon. He said that there was a pilot there mowing the lawn around the runway, and he knocked on the back door of the house and yelled out for Dorothy several times. He said dogs were barking and he could hear the television was on, but nobody came to the door. Nobody answered the door. Paul Desmond said he remained in the area for about 20 minutes and then left. He said he called the house the next day and nobody answered the phone. So he returned to the house on Tuesday night and noticed that everything was exactly as he had seen it on Sunday. Nothing had changed. The television was on and dogs were barking. He said that that's when he looked through the door's window and he could see a stool knocked over and a mess on the floor. He became worried and managed to gain entry into the house and discovered Dorothy Epps dead on the floor, lying in a large pool of blood. Authorities were notified at that time. A pilot named Michael Bedard told investigators that he was the one mowing the lawn for the runway on Sunday afternoon. He said that he spoke briefly with Mrs. Epps about 3:30 that afternoon. Bedard said that as he was leaving about 7 o'clock in the evening, he saw parked in a carport a white Honda Accord station wagon that belongs to George and Dorothy Epps' daughter, Liz Epps. When investigators arrived on the scene following the discovery of a dead body, that car was not there. Who has that car, and where is it now? A woman named Esther Braswell testified that James Barber was renting a basement apartment from her, that on Sunday, May 20, the day of the murder, Barber asked her if he can borrow $30 from her so that he can take Liz Epps to the movies. Braswell said that Barber returned home about 8 o'clock that night, and she saw him driving Liz Epps' white Honda Accord station wagon. The car that was seen by the pilot, Michael Bedard, about an hour earlier, at about 7 o'clock, at the home of Dorothy Epps. When Liz Epps was located, she informed investigators that she had been driving around in her father's car since he went out of town, that she left her car, the white Honda Accord station wagon, parked at the farm, and that she had left the keys for her car hanging from the key hooks rack on the dining room wall. Liz Epps would later testify at trial that she had a relationship with Barber before May of 2001, that they had lived together the previous year in 2000, but had broken up because he was using painkillers and cocaine. The white Honda Accord station wagon was later recovered by authorities, and a forensics lab positively concluded through DNA testing that traces of blood found in the car match the victim, Dorothy Epps. James Barber was first questioned by detectives on Wednesday, May 23rd. He agreed to provide his hand and fingerprinting, and he denied having anything to do with the murder. Barber was questioned a second time at about 1 o'clock in the morning on Friday, May 25th, 5 days after the murder. Once again, he continued to deny any involvement in the murder. About 10 hours later, that Friday, he was found again, this time at a hotel in the company of a woman, and he was taken into custody. He was informed that the forensics lab found a bloody palm print near the body. DNA proved the blood belonged to the victim, and the handprint on the blood was a positive match for his hand. As we can see in the report, at that point, James Barber became very emotional and stated that on the day of the murder, he had been using cocaine all day, that he was planning on going to the movies with the victim's daughter, Liz, but she was at a meeting until late. He said that he was really effed up and did not plan to kill the victim, that he went to the victim's house and was talking to her when he suddenly turned around and hit her with his hands and then beat her with a claw hammer. He ended up beating her to death with that claw hammer. He later threw the hammer away in a trash can at a car wash. He took the victim's purse because, as it says in the report, it looked good, but not to rob her. He wanted the purse because it was a nice-looking purse, but not to rob her. James Barber also made statements that he was sorry and felt bad for the victim's family, that the crime was senseless and stupid. He sobbed and cried throughout the interview, and when the interview was over, he repeatedly showed remorse for his actions. I'm not sure who's writing this report. And stated that he loved the victim and did not know why he had killed her. That he wanted to die. That he did not want a trial. That he wanted to be executed. That he did not want to put the family through that. That he did not want attorneys. He wanted to be charged with murder, and put to death. In a few days, James Barber may get his wish. Even though Barber, following that videotaped confession, and now while currently on death row, claims that that confession never happened and insists that he is innocent. Another man on death row saying he is innocent. Please remember to subscribe for more death row and upcoming execution stories. I am Paco Rivera. Bye for now.